Hi there, everybody. I'm Fred Thomas, and you are watching All Things Bike. And today we are speaking with Dave Powers, the founder and CEO of Powers Endurance Sports. Dave, welcome to the show.
Hey, Fred, thanks so much for having me here today.
Yeah,
appreciate it.
You are very welcome. It's great to have you down here. So tell us about Powers Endurance Sport. What is it exactly? When did it get started? And what was the inspiration?
Powers Endurance Sports started in 2009, and I was transitioning, I thought at the time, out of the bike industry, back into the running shoe business.
No one ever leaves the bike industry.
Exactly. And at the Interbike show in 2009, I had a meeting with Erhard Wissler, who is the owner of Lightweight Wheels in Germany, the handmade carbon fiber wheel company. One thing led to another, and he asked me to give them help in growing the brand in the North American market. So I thought, geez, I'm getting back into the running shoe business. This will be a great, I thought at the time, side hustle.
Right.
And fast forward 9 years, I'm still with Lightweight, and the business, it's hard, as you said, to leave.
Yeah.
It's got a draw. And so Powers Endurance Sports started out initially as the distributor of Lightweight wheels. And then I've added other brands that I thought complemented Lightweight over the years, such as Passoni Bikes from Italy. I have a couple clothing lines, a shoe line, new saddle line out of Italy called Repente. So it just sort of morphed out of really the Passoni and Lightweight.
Right. And it's evolved into into a company with a whole variety of brands.
So I act as a distributor for a number of the brands. I act as an agent for another brands, and then I act as a sales rep, manufacturer sales rep for some of the other brands that I work with.
Many hats.
Yeah.
And but before we dive into all that, you used to wear a Serata hat. You were the director of sales at that organization. Tell us a little bit about that experience and how it shaped your philosophy and policies at Powers Endurance Sports.
Okay. I got to Serata around 2006. I'd been working for Saucony Running Shoes for 17 years as a sales executive. Saucony got sold and a lot of us left. And I'd grown up in upstate New York, and I thought, geez, I've always known about Serata, incredible bikes, and so I came on board as their head of sales. You know, what I learned, it wasn't anything that I learned that I think affected my business philosophy. It gave me a chance to understand the bike industry.
Right.
Maybe a lot better under a microscope. And what I mean by that is, at Saucony, I spent a lot of time working with independent specialty run retailers. So the independent bike dealers that typically form your base dealer network with Serata, I had a chance to, in a lot of cases, meet dealers that are now still working with me today. And so it gave me a chance to learn about the best of the best from a dealer perspective, and then also understand some of the troubles dealers would have in selling Serata or selling other custom bike brands. So it gave me a pretty good, what can I do, what I can't do sort of education. And I think that's the key that I took out of it. And then I think the other thing it really imparted on me was the passion that people have for cycling. And I think, you know, we all get into the business one way or another, but I think what we all forget is that riding your bike was really the first chance at freedom you ever had. Because the minute you got on the two-wheeler, your bike, and you went over to your friend's Bill's house that's 2 or 3 blocks away from your parents' house, they had no idea where you were. There were no cell phones in the day. And it was a great, I think, relief because you had some freedom. And on your bike, you could do anything you wanted to. So I think as adults, a lot of us who maybe have left cycling and now decide to get back onto it, when you get on a bike, that passion is rekindled. And I saw at Serata the passion that people had for the brand, but also the real passion they had for riding and riding with friends and having great experiences on the bike. And I think that's more than anything colored, how I look at the business and what I try and do with my dealers.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I mean, I still feel that every time I get on my bike.
Exactly.
All the trouble sort of dissolve away. And I know that when I was a youth, I would hop on my bike and ride around and ultimately end up at my grandmother's house and get some breakfast. But, I'll never forget that.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything such as a bad ride.
Yeah, exactly.
So.
Well, how about this? Tell us a little bit about the customer network that you've got and how you maintain the relationships and how you find new ones.
I think it's always evolving, but typically with my brands, I know dealers in North America that I think can do an effective job selling and servicing the brands that I represent, and that are comfortable selling those brands. It's tough to sell a bike over $5,000 or $6,000 or $7,000. In my case, $7,000 to $25,000 or $30,000. But there's definitely a market for them. People like great equipment, but I think it takes a shop that's dedicated to a fit-first mentality. It takes a shop that's dedicated to really working with their employees as far as sales training. And it's a shop that wants to develop a sense of community in their area. It's not just shop rides, it's treating the customers as family.
Right.
And I think it's really a shop that want to improve the quality of their customers' lifestyles. And I think a lot of shops will tell you that they do it, but in my experience, that's not always the case, and for a variety of reasons. I think everybody starts with the best intentions, but it's a tough business.
Yeah.
And so I think people gravitate maybe to what they're more comfortable with.
Yeah.
So for me, I've got, as I said, 20 to 25. And then as far as developing new business, a lot of times it'll go along with the lines that I'm carrying. So somebody may not be a Passoni bike dealer for me, but they may have the shoes and saddles that I carry. And again, I don't need to have a lot of dealers. I want to have the best dealers, and I want to treat it as a relationship. I think a lot of people that sell or distribute look at this as a transaction.
Right.
My sales style over the years has always been developing a relationship, because I've got to look at this a year from now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now.
Right.
Where is that business going?
Right.
And how can I help them get to where they want to go?
Right. Well, that sounds like the right way to do it. I mean, so how would you do that? And if you were to provide advice to someone who wanted to get into the business of being a sales rep or developing, this kind of activity, what's best practice for developing a long-term relationship with a dealer?
I think it's really trying to understand the dealer, what their strengths are, what their weaknesses are, how you can make a difference in that dealer's business. And sometimes you have to have the courage of your convictions to have that tough conversation of, hey, you really have to clean up the bathroom.
Right.
Or, hey, have you thought about putting a changing room in because now you're trying to sell clothing?
Wow,
or with the way that cycling's going into a connected realm, so to speak, and the growth in cycling and things such as power meters. If one of your clients came in and said, Fred, I've got this power meter, and I got a cycling coach, I'm all excited, but I don't really know how to download the information to my laptop so I could send the information to my coach. Can your staff walk somebody through that? And it's not, it sounds like it's simple, but having a staff that thinks like that takes a lot of foresight. And I'm just amazed now when I go on rides how many people have Garmin's, how many people are in the Strava world or in the Zwift. And so all that technology, especially for old guys, can be a little daunting. So I think that, to me, is, a good salesperson can think like that.
Right.
And then then the other part of it is the business aspect of it, and really having, as I call it, a heart-to-heart conversation with yourself, because I will tell you, running my own business is the toughest thing I've ever done in my life. And I have more respect for people that have small businesses because there's a substantial amount of work.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
And, you know, when you have a typical W-2 job, a lot of that work is done for you.
Right.
But as a small business owner, you know, FedEx charges can make or break you. Travel charges. If you're going into New York City, for example, to call on dealers, what hotel do you pick that doesn't take, you know, 2 weeks worth of income to pay for? So it's really understanding the business aspect of it. So anybody trying to get into it, I think I'd come at it from looking at shops that you think do a good job, see if you can spend some time there, talk to some other sales reps. Good salespeople, no matter what industry, are invaluable. And I think that's what I'd look at. There unfortunately isn't a good school to become a manufacturer's rep, but there are a lot of businesses that have them. So I'd approach it from that perspective.
That's very valuable. And tell us a little bit about Lightweight and Passoni. These are two very distinctive brands. Maybe just give us a quick summary of what a lightweight wheel is for some viewers who may not be familiar with it, and same for Passoni Bikes.
I got exposed to lightweight wheels. I was living in Germany from 1996 to 1999. I was working for Saucony, and I was in their European office. So I was a cycling enthusiast, and I found a bike shop one town over from where we were living, right outside of Heidelberg. And I found out the owner, his name was Günter Haaretz, and he was a gold medalist in the '72 Olympics and the German pursuit team. He also happened to be very close friends with Eddie Merckx, and Eddie would come there in the summertime and drink beer with Günter. So he invited me to a couple of their club rides, and the first one I thought I had to show up, snowing like crazy. I had more clothes on. I looked like the Michelin Man. And there were 6 of us showed up, and there was a young kid riding with us who had a set of lightweights on. And I've never seen bike handling skills like this in my life. He was jumping snowbanks. He was doing a little bit of everything. And he just told me his name was Thomas. And he spoke no English. I spoke a little bit of German. Long story short, Thomas's older brother was Jan Ulrich. And Jan had, really Bjorn Ries and Jan had debuted lightweight wheels that year at the Tour de France. Bjorn had won with them. And lightweight was founded really by 2 German engineers on a bet, and they were bet by a couple of their friends they couldn't make a significantly better wheel for horse racing buggies. And that sort of bet evolved into bike wheels. So they developed lightweight wheel, and the rim was made out of carbon fiber, and at that time the spokes were made out of Kevlar strands, and they baked the wheels in a used pizza oven. But what made them special is they were astronomically lighter than any of the commercially available wheels at the time, and much stiffer. So the competitive advantage that Jan Ulrich found was descending in the Tour de France. With a lightweight wheel, he could pick his line and hold his line, where with every other wheel, the wheel would flex enough where the bike would sort of drift off the line. So Jan's perspective was that he would pick up a meter a turn or more. And over the course of a descent in the Tour, that's a significant add.
And he was also a sprinter, Jan Ulrich, right?
Well, and we've had a lot of we've had Tom Boone, we've had Cipollini won the Worlds on lightweights. So they've stood the test of time. And then the 2 founders of the business wanted to get out, so they sold lightweight in 2002 to Erhard Wissler, who runs a company called the Wissler Group. And Erhard's an engineer by training, incredible man, and he has 3 distinct different businesses. One is lightweight wheels. One is really a carbon fiber consulting company called Carbo Fiber Tech, but they will do things like Mont Blanc carbon fiber pens. They build the barrels for the pen. They've done carbon fiber seating systems for Recaro and Porsche. They've done carbon fiber seating systems for a lot of the big airline manufacturers to reduce the weight of the aircraft to get better fuel economy.
Right, so they have a lot of intelligence
Yeah.
and experience. And I mean, and the name says it all. I mean,
Well, they were called lightweight wheels
yeah.
because Heinz Obermeyer, the founder, said, well, the wheels are light, so we're going to call them lightweight.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
and that was the brand.
Exactly. I mean, the name sort of suggests that
Right.
they almost didn't really think too much about
They
the
didn't.
name.
They didn't,
These are
but
lightweight wheels, and
it was an engineer's perspective and very well thought out,
right.
and made a lot of sense.
Yeah.
It might not have made sense from a marketing
Right, but the name,
perspective, but that was
but it
how
worked
they
out. The name
got
has
going.
stuck. And briefly about Passoni. What's what are
Well,
the key
it was
features
funny.
there?
I had heard about Passoni when I was at Serrata, and they were.
So they've been around.
They've been around for 35 years, actually a little longer now. But Passoni got started, again, by an engineer in Italy who was very passionate about cycling and had seen another cyclist out riding around Lake Como in Italy on a bike that he had no idea what it was. And it turned out this cyclist had made a titanium frame set. So Mr. Passoni said, I want one of those. And he ordered two, one for himself and one for his son. And they rode them, and then he called this builder up and he said, I'd like to send my son to you to become an apprentice to learn how to build frames. And the other frame builder said, no, that's not going to happen. So Mr. Passoni started Passoni Bikes and basically learned how to do it, learned the issues with dealing with titanium. It's a very difficult material to build with, both from a welding perspective, cutting the tubes perspective. Right. What makes it a great material for a bike frame makes it a difficult material to fabricate into a frame. So their core competency is titanium, but they've been building steel bikes for a long time. We build out of stainless steel Columbus XCR tubing. We've gotten into carbon fiber. And 2 years ago, we introduced a frame called the FiftyOne, which is a blend of carbon tubing, and the carbon tubing is infused with titanium mesh.
Wow. So
carbon titanium, and it's an incredible frame. It sort of blends the best of both worlds.
Right. Are they road and mountain bike and?
Primarily road. We build some titanium mountain bikes. We do some titanium single speeds for Passoni enthusiasts. Right. But again, basically road. Basically road, yeah.
Well, that's good. Well, so I want to take a sort of step back. I mean, you've got these great brands, and you spend a lot of time with dealers. I've always wondered when a sales rep goes into a shop, what's the gossip? What is the sort of the banter that sort of comes up about the industry, about products? I mean, what's the small talk?
It depends on the dealer.
Let's say in New York or
still depends on the dealer.
Okay.
Every New York dealer I'll have a different conversation with. It may be why the Jets aren't playing well, or did you see the Giants game?
Is that right? So you have to you have to start in with some of that.
You've got to be well versed, because I truly think, if you're trying to develop that relationship, what are their customers into, and what are their end customers into? So if I'm doing a dealer event, will I be able to talk to one of their clients about anything else besides bikes?
Right.
With the dealers, it's really dependent on their market sophistication. One of my dealers has a store that's very successful, but he also has a very successful online business. So those are two separate businesses almost, where I have another dealer, good dealer in Greenwich, Connecticut, really the pioneer in the whole fit first type bike selling philosophy. He's got other issues. So it's understanding that, being able to not only talk bikes, talk business, talk issues of the day. You may
and pluck, and sort of pluck and choose and add.
And I find a lot of bike shop guys are into cars. So I'm a car nut also, but it's having that car conversation. Hey, did you see this or this or this? And being able to talk about family. Yeah. Because we all have family, or we're going to have family. It's it's caring about what they're into. You know, there's an old adage that people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care, which is kind of corny, but I think it's a truism that serves people well.
Yeah, it sounds right. What about, I mean, so just generally your daily routine or weekly routine, is there a lot of driving?
I drive about 35,000 miles a year, so
that's a lot.
A lot of saddle time, you know.
Wow. Do you have any good podcasts that you can recommend?
I was listening to the new Tom Clancy book on the drive up here.
Okay, right, so it's books.
You know, books on tape, but a lot of podcasts. So I'll listen to, on a business front, different Jocko Willink, who's intriguing. He's a ex-Navy SEAL who's sort of a new management guru, just different ways to think about things. I listen to Gary Vee from an internet strategy point of view. I'll listen to Tony Robbins. I listen to Lance. I listen to other endurance podcasts. And then the books. So business books can get a little dry on a long trip, so hence the action novels.
No, understood. Well, I mean, it's so you are, with that time, you are finding ways to maximize it.
Yeah, and then on the phone, because I'll have dealers calling me.
Oh, yeah.
You know, what's the progress on this? Where are the wheels I ordered?
Yeah, right. No, well, that's the job, and it's been very successful because it seems like there are more and more brands coming in every day. I mean, can you give us a sense of what's coming up for 2019 in terms of shows or brands?
Yeah, I think, you know, the conversation that is in play everywhere right now is disc brakes, and disc brakes.
I'm a believer. I've converted.
And I think it's interesting. Passoni's business globally is still primarily rim brake bikes. They know long term that probably won't be the case, but we have a market over here that's very unique, but it's not that dissimilar, let's say from the UK or Australia, where disc brakes have really become popular, not just on road, but the whole gravel movement has really spurred development of disc brake frame sets, disc brake technology, and so on. A lot of the traditional cycling countries, Europe, the rest of Europe, for example, Italy, France, Germany, the Far East is a huge market for the high-end global cycling business. And right now, it's pretty much a rim brake market. I
noticed that in my last trip to Thailand. At the only place you can really ride in Bangkok is around the airport. So it's flat, as it possibly be, and it's mostly rim brake. But well, that's an interesting observation.
When you listen to the product plans for a lot of the big manufacturers, Specialized, Trek, or so on, it's primarily a disc brake line that they've developed.
Right. But it's easy to lose sight of the fact that there are very big markets still out there that may take time to fully embrace disc brakes. Although I think disc brakes are great, especially if you're riding downhill for 20 miles.
They're amazing. The Passoni I brought today is a disc bike.
Excellent.
And I think one of the big movements is Pinarello has gotten a lot of play with the new F10 disc. And that's a significant change in the market. Because a lot of people look at what Pinarello has done, and the fact that the Pinarello customer is now embracing disc technology, I think we'll see the trend accelerate more quickly. And some of the other Italian brands, Colnago's been there, Cipollini has a lot of disc brake bikes in their line. So.
Yeah, well, that's good. That's progress. And just to wrap up, are there any features on the horizon for Powers Endurance for next year that we should look out for? What do you want to talk about?
Just continue doing what I'm doing. Really focus on the lines that I have. Keep lightweight going. Help our lightweight dealers do more business. So I think it's not the sell-in I'm so concerned about. It's really helping the dealers with the sell-through, and that is something that's critical, because inventory management is going to be a significant part of anybody's business. And with lightweight, it's not something where
Right.
dealers have a lot of inventory on hand, and
Yeah.
I don't want them to, quite honestly. But at the same time, help them sell, help them become more comfortable selling a wheel set that costs as much money as a set of lightweights does, and understanding that there are a lot of sort of strata to the wheel business, and if they're playing here, here, and here with lightweight, that's a great strategy. But getting them to think,
Right.
in that regards also, and then continue to develop Passoni. I think there's a resurgence in titanium, and again, I think Passoni, being at this end of the titanium market, is okay. There's a lot of good titanium builders out there, but I think being perceived as maybe a little different or a little higher is not a bad thing. It sets you up for a market segment
Right.
that maybe the competition isn't as cutthroat, or people look at the brand a little differently.
Yeah, no, that sounds great. It's I mean, to sell at that level in that market, it's a science as much as it is an art, and
It's a little bit everything. Yeah.
Well, that's great, Dave. You're the man for it. Thanks so much for coming down and
Fred, thanks for having me
and talking about it. All right, everybody, that was Dave Powers, founder and CEO of Powers Endurance Sports. You can learn more about the brands that he represents on his website. Thanks so much for watching. That's all we got time for. See you again next time.
All Things Bike is brought to you by FitWorks, rider-first bike fitting, rider-matched bike sales. Locations in Peabody, Massachusetts, Waitsfield, Vermont, and Ridgefield Park, New Jersey. And Frame and Wheel, eBay selling services for cyclists, bike shops, and bicycle companies. Time, space, cash. Pick 3. And AD Bikes, the modern face of Austro-Daimler cycling and the bike company of the future.